Up in the hills, Jah goes to sea, giving life to everything. Go watch it grow. I know need this medicine, and angry police sent like people so after you. Sending like people sent upon creation. Smoke one for me, smoke one for me. And I, behind these prison walls, waiting to be free. I'm wanting a scene and cultivating thereafter me for fighting the freedom, fighting to capture the one who fought in their stairs. Waking the sheep kept cozy asleep one by one. Each mystery explained in full, so you know exactly why they fight us. Oh, cook one for me, smoke one for me. And I'll be behind these prison walls, waiting to be free. Smoke one for me, smoke one for me. And I'll be behind these prison walls, waiting to be free. Some make a tea, some smoke the tea, some make a side to stay. Hallelujah, mystery around that sound. Don't ever judge, show them the love. Know who you are, for the Almighty above. One of the children that's sent to bring love and creation. And grow, yes, smoke one for me, smoke one for me. And I'll be behind these prison walls. Oh, waiting to be free. I smoke one for me, smoke one for me. Oh, smoke one for me. Behind these prison walls, I walk in the hills, Jaggers is sea. Give life to everything. Go watch it go. I know. Need this medicine, and angry police sent like this is after destruction. They work to fight down people, sent upon creation. Oh, smoke one for me, smoke one for me. And now, behind these prison walls, oh, smoke one for me, smoke one for me. And waiting behind these prison walls, smoke one for me, smoke one for me. And behind these prison walls,
Good evening and welcome to Mechanics of the Fourth Wall. Joining myself and Antonio Subrat tonight is Issa Mahal. How are you doing, Issa?
So well, man. I'm so honored to be on your show. I've been a fan and just watching me outside, and I'm so happy to be here.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you here. And how are you doing, Antonio?
I'm doing freaking marvelous. I love that tune. Since the first time I heard it, it's just one of those I hum it in as I go around my business. I love it.
I'm so happy. I'm so happy because really, like, you guys introduced me to a world that I was waiting for, and honestly, like, it's even like Lady here, yeah, Lady, and what do you call it? Like, even just meeting Lady, everything has just expanded in a matter of like weeks for me. Having met everyone, I feel more comfortable talking to everyone about it. Just to know that everyone's out here is just amazing to me, man. I just hope people feel good about, there's people out here.
We should probably qualify that we didn't show you that the Earth was flat, though, did we?
No. I've been all over. Actually, you know what? The first dude who got me into it, funnily enough, amidst all the drama and stuff like that, was ODD made a video about the true world flat Earth, and that video just got me really thinking. Then he had, and of course all these are like, topics of conversation amongst people in our community of flat earthers. But like Dubay, like that video, 200 proofs, like, you know, all those videos. And then like I look at it like you guys took it to the next level of where like, okay, we have this, you know, there's a lot of people out there questioning this flat earth. It seems like we can't see over the horizon. I was just buzzing with that for a while. And then I stumbled across you guys. And I was like, no freaking way, because everything was so produced that I'd never seen, that to see people just talking about it, the Google chats, the fact that they exist, and how you guys have used them to be, like, really, I felt like you were my only flat earth friends, like, even though I'd never talked to you, and I'd watched all your videos. Because I was like, you guys are real, like, I've always just genuinely felt a connection with you guys. So then when you guys were doing the tracking of the sun, I was like, well, you know, I'm not going to sit on my hands. I'd like to help. You know, I wound up, I got a router. I couldn't even participate in the actual thing. So I'm looking forward to the next one you guys are doing. But that, for me, it was such a relief. And then Antonio, like, you turned me on to Hillbilly, and Hillbilly's awesome, Political Hillbilly, and then just learning that y'all are out here. I mean, changed my whole life in the last couple of days. So I'm so thankful, really.
So
It's the real world.
Yeah.
Sorry, Nathan. I was just saying, it's the real world.
Yep. Yeah. It's funny too, cause it's funny because like what I noticed. I mean, I came in and then met you guys, and then I went over and found kind of like a 24-hour home at FreeChan, just with like these intellectuals that are just coming out of left field and just smart people, man. Like I could go on, you know, I will throughout the show, I think, but like, because I've learned so much from them that like. To know that they're there gives me confidence, even just dealing with the people who don't know, because just the satisfaction of knowing that there is a way and a place to go to talk to people. I look at it like therapy. Like I recommend if, you know, they have 24 hours. I mean, you go there and suss out your ideas, but then you guys are like, I mean, I wouldn't have known anything about it, you know, had you guys not been on here. So, but yeah, I knew the Earth. I was detecting that the Earth was flat long before I ran into you guys, and it just put like such a welcome. I don't know. I can't explain it. So nice to be here. I'm still like buzzing from it. So, pardon me.
Huh. But you know how the globe was kind of superimposed on reality by being installed into people's minds. So when they see the moon, they can teleport themselves off the planet and imagine where it is, and this. Superimposing. This is why when I met you on the Hangouts and later we spoke on Skype, I thought, oh, dude, you know about the whole Freeman, you know about the truth of law and the legal world, and that is the same. You have the globe superimposed over the reality of the flat Earth. You have legal law superimposed over law.
They go
and
hand
I thought,
in hand.
you got to get to with Hillbilly. So yeah.
Oh, it was amazing. Like, you know, like just the idea of like. For me, they go hand in glove because I was studying law and money long before I was studying the shape of the Earth. And so when I got into the shape of the Earth, it's like a lot of what I learned is based on the court mechanics. And then what I learned was that there is a deep appreciation in the courts for let's say the Bible, and for instance in the United States. And it was a law book initially. So like, you know, it was taught through all the way up to the 20s, a substantive law book. And so when you start to bring in the shape of the Earth into the equation for me, it gave me more emphasis and really struck home when you go into a courtroom and you realize that the Bible says that the Earth is flat. And then you go into a courtroom and it says, "In God we trust." Well, philosophically, as I hope to get to tonight, it's like that. The idea of our freedom is based on our recognition that, like, we're not the body. If you know, I've been saying and posing the question to people: if you die, is it your body that goes into the ground, or is it you? And most people will make the distinction between their body and themselves. Oh, that's my body that goes in. And you know, whether they be atheists or not, they say, "Oh, my body goes in." But why do you separate yourself so intuitively? You separate yourself from your body. And I think what's happened is that as we've come to, like we've talked about, you know, there's like these elements of knowledge. You got to get familiar with health, because then you have body knowledge.
And then you've got to come with all these things. You got lied to about health. You got lied to about school. Nobody can tell you what money means or what it is or how it's made or anything. Nobody's told me a convincing thing other than what I propose regarding triple life sentences. Because that's a mystery to everyone. Well, I feel as though I've gotten cracked the code. So the thing is that, like, now all these answers become apparent. And then when you're standing in front of court, you know that the Bible says the earth is flat. You can see that it looks flat. The judge respects your biblical references. It seems like there's like the fix is in for us. Like, we can't lose. You know, once you make this mental adaptation, I don't see defeat anymore. And so that's something I had going into law, because initially Eddie Freeman that I've talked to is very angry and very against the government and I feel as though that's an adolescent side to a very sophisticated problem. Mm-hmm. So you have this adolescent anger of, like I've been saying, is that, you know, as an adolescent, you know, as Michael Cesarian put it, and that's something I agree, you know, it's like you have to fall in love with saying no. No, I'm not going to take your medications anymore. No, I'm not going to handle your scientific jargon, which doesn't actually correlate to the real world. No, I'm not going to do what you tell me in a certain way, you know, if it affects my health or otherwise. So therefore, once you start learning that, okay, you start to feel that that's right. Okay, I got to say no to all this stuff. But then the thing is that you become you've defeated everything. And if I've noticed the first things out of people's mouths, even in business and stuff, is, you can't do that. And then I go and prove them wrong. So it's just like, I can't listen to you if you're going to tell me I can't do it, because I've done too many things that I've been told I can't do for that to have any credence anymore with me. And so it's like, you know, when I see that, when I found that went from the angry perspective, and there's a great friend of mine who really I go to he's a total contrarian, you know, he's just going to not agree with me about anything. So it doesn't matter what it is. So, like, it could be, what do we get, you know, you want to get pizza? Well, I don't like, you know, it could be a totally problem. So I always take my ideas to him.
So this guy is your Nathan Oakley to me.
There you go. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, no, I'll tell you what. Nathan is far more agreeable. I'm going to do it like that, because this guy is just the pits, man. Like, talk about the worst. So, like, I always joke with him, and I came up with this analogy for a lot of people. It's like, you know, if I told you, like, okay, like, if a pretty woman were to ask a man up for a cup of coffee at 12:30 at night to her apartment, you know, some people out there, it seems to me, would blatantly outright say, I do not drink coffee, and won't go upstairs. Just won't go upstairs and see what happened if, you know, with the lady. Then there's those of us who've gone upstairs and we've gotten a cup of coffee. I can't explain to that guy that I don't drink cup of coffee, but I put the cup of coffee on the nightstand and had a blast. So, but they're never going to go there. They'll never go upstairs. They'll never go handle that. Hey, lady. Can you handle that call, please? With the, you have to answer the phone.
With the coffee.
Okay, good. Forgive me.
Just to let people know, Issa, just to let people know, before we went live, you explained to us that you're expecting somebody that you've not been able to contact. So if you want to go, just to let people know.
Thank you. Okay, so the thing is that I see nothing but success in front of us all, because I just see it like, even like, I look at it like darkness, right? Like, light beats darkness. If I turn on my light, it's not a scary dark room anymore, right? So if I can turn on the light and see everything in there, I don't know everything, you know, I'm okay. Because usually the boogeyman, the whole thing that scares you about the boogeyman is you don't know where he is. So once we've located the boogeyman has lost the gist on the whole, the element of surprise. There's no fear anymore. It's like, look at the guy in the corner. Shoot him. Bang. You know what I mean? Like, you know, because you got a gun or something. So it's like, it's not a problem anymore. But if I may, hey, lady, can you come here for a sec? Thank you. Yeah, lady is actually going to be coming up with Patricia, and I know lady actually has not been online with me as much as usually, just because I've been running all over the place and bringing her with me. So I've been online, and we've been doing all kinds of stuff here in the city. But now she's going to do the show with lady, or with Patricia, and this gets to the idea of what the foundation of is understanding your body. Having a body health. And if you'll pardon me 1 second, guys, forgive me about that.
Yeah. Yeah, go. Lady, ven, siéntate aquí. Okay, so lady, you're going to be on with Patricia on Wednesday on Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes, which is going to be cool because it's going to be her first show here in the UK. So it's going to be brilliant. But just to let people know who might not know what's going to be going on, give people a quick little explanation of you and health and why they call you Lady Ganja.
Okay, well, I've been spreading the knowledge of harming reduction with vaporizers here, like down there in South America, in Argentina and Uruguay as well. We've been trying to teach people that there is a better way to consume the medicine without secondary harming effects that usually people get when they are having those kind of treatments, you know, like they get sick, they want to vomit, the lack of appetite. It's well proved that cannabis helps a lot with those kind of symptoms. So you want actually like a patient to have appetite, you know, to eat and not have like nutritional issues, you know, because they are already like taking a bunch of pills, like some even like doing chemotherapy, and like it's very necessary to feed a patient to help with the treatment that they are getting, you know. So yeah, on that aspect, cannabis helps a lot. Not only with the vaporizing, but also with the Rick Simpson oil, which is well known of curing cancer. So yeah, that's another thing that I really like doing. I like making oil for the patients.
So you have been making oil, and how have you distributed it? How have you given it to people?
We've been doing activism down there in South America, like quite a lot, and most of the people that I
Sorry, doing what? I didn't quite catch that.
Activism, like teaching the people, because like most of them down there, they don't know about the medical benefits that cannabis has, not only on a psychoactive matter, because like everybody knows that like Rick Simpson oil, it's not psychoactive, like it doesn't get you high, but it helps enormously, you know, because it actually makes the cancer cells commit suicide, you know. That's huge.
Absolutely. Yeah. Cool. Well, just before you go, Lady Ganja, can you tell us when you're on with Patricia?
I'm going to talk about Patricia's, yeah, and like how it also helps to have like a healthy like conduct on your eating, you know. Like food should be your medicine, not pills.
Yes.
Like
yes. So
yourself, you shouldn't be having the need to go and take all those pills that the system wants you to take.
All right, I'm back.
Okay, he's back. Well, that's what we're going to talk with Patricia.
Just before you go, can you just tell the viewers when you're on with Patricia, just so they know exactly when you're on with her?
Wednesday, right, Antonio?
Yes, Wednesday. And it will be about this time on Wednesday.
Exactly.
Maybe a little bit later.
Yeah, 2 days later, I leave you, Elisa. Nice talking to you.
Hasta luego.
Oh, okay.
Wednesday, 17th. Patricia Spears, Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes with Lady Ganja. Be there. Okay, brilliant. Issa, how you doing?
Yeah. All right, good. All right, back
question.
to winning.
Let me just. It's a long time ago. I was living in Spain. I was 18. I went over there. I was teaching English. Now, there was a magazine, one of these magazines about the supernatural, mysteries and whatnot, and there was a special on the character that was hijacked and became Jesus of the Bible. The real person, who was called Emmanuel, who was a real person, who traveled north of Afghanistan, who spent time in Tibet, and who eventually died in between India and Pakistan in Kashmir or this region. Now, the way this man was called was Isa, and it was written I-S-A or I-double-S-A, because that means great teacher. I just wanted to mention that because every time I see your name, I think, dude, it just reminds me of this character. That there really was a historical guy who caused a problem for the Romans and the Jews. There really was this guy, and he caused a problem just by being a mellow, peaceful guy. And this guy was a real character. He really died. He really did have descendants. We're not talking the Da Vinci Code. We're talking real historicity. Graves with great teacher emblazoned above the grave in stone. So this is a real character. There was a real person, and he was called Isa. So I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you, man. I accepted the name because when I was young, I was surrounded by Islam. Also, I didn't trust older people. I grew up around a lot of I grew up in a great home. I love my parents. But I was surrounded by drugs and stuff like that. And so I just realized I was I'm not going to trust you. I'm not going to trust you. I don't trust what you say, and screw you, because I was just I couldn't bear with the lie of any lie that came in front of my face. I was so offended by it because I figured I was just intuitive enough where I'd see right through the bullshit, and it served me well. So I think it's almost like something like a muscle that I've come to just cultivate, where it's even for myself, it's if someone tells me to, me and my friends have a joke between us, it's don't tell me what to do. Just you're cool, just don't tell me what to do, man, because I know that if I go against myself, I'm not going to enjoy it. And if I go on, if you're rushed up and you got to go away from me, because I can't deal with that.
There's a flip side, isn't there? There's not just them telling you what you can't do. There's them telling you what you will do, and that's the same principle. You can just say no, I won't be doing that, and you don't have to do it.
And now this gets into there is that, and that's the thing that's a great question, great point, because the thing is that that's what I'm seeing in the community of people out here that are studying law, and this gets me back to what I was trying to say before about that adolescent approach to a very sophisticated problem, because there's a maxim in law. Now we're gonna go okay, it's good to say no, but after you've gotten a little weary of saying no to everything, and now you're looking for something to do, the thing is that you have to understand that he who does deny admits. So it's when somebody says, "Hey, did you steal that?" and you go, "No," do they just walk away and go, "Oh, so forgive me"? You know what I mean? No, they search your pockets and then they check out, and you're the whole time going, "No, don't do it." So that obviously doesn't work. That's a fallacy, is what it becomes. So it reveals itself once you start studying law and you find out that there's a maxim, and you're like, "Oh wow, there was these smart guys." And they came up with these maxims that, in my opinion, court could not be any other way. It's the perfected evolution, if you will. Pardon me, I am a flat earther using the term evolution. But the thing is that it has been a successive thing or it's been here since forever, but I don't know. However, I could see it where it could have been evolved into the finest system that we have. It's the recourse of gentlemen. And so gentlemen deserve peace and love and honor and prosperity. Barbarians do not. So the thing is that he who does deny leads to this, or when we're saying no all the time, we become barbaric. And whereas when we're negotiable, that's where we understand that he who does deny admits. So if someone says to you, "Tell me your name," you know what I mean? There's what's called in law conditional acceptance. But instead of being so jargony about its conditional acceptance, I could say, I'd be happy to tell you my name. Like the Bible says in Matthew 5:45, agree with thine adversary quickly. So I'd love to tell you my name for $5, a cup of coffee, and if you pay my rent. Want to do it? Still want to know my name? So now it's like, now we're on a different territory. Now we're like, well, why? What are you, a creep? I've just conditionally accepted all your offers, now put that back in your court and saying, and now I'm calling you a creep. Walk yourself out of that one, bud. Try to prove, I'm not. Okay. You know what I mean? Like, because now it's just, you're just full of shit. And so the court.
So when you say to him, what are you, a creep? And he says, no, then you've just turned the tables, and he who does deny.
It's a rap, man. It's a rap. So like, and I use this I use this everywhere. So it's not something that you just is strictly reserved for court. That's what's beautiful about it, is that you actually have to start to learn to cultivate it in your natural life, or else it won't work when the fire is, when the fan, when it's getting hot.
Yeah, and like you said earlier, it needs to be a muscle reflex rather than you thinking, how do I answer this question? What's the correct way? You just need to. What are you? What's this? What is this? The Spanish Inquisition?
Well, look at it like this. If I say to you, tell me your name, what I'm saying also is that I have the right to tell you to tell me your name. I didn't say that in so much, but that's a presumption that you're going on. You're presuming that you have the authority to get my name. Well, what if I know that a name's a word, right? Everyone can agree that a name's a word, right? Well, I've had too many enlightening experiences in myself to define myself as just a word, right? I mean, that would just be disingenuous. So now the thing is that that's a well-known philosophical reality even in the court system. They get that. They're men of thought. So like, and the other side is that, like, when people start, like, a lot of people rag on the Freemasons, and I don't care about the Freemasons otherwise. I've never taken an oath, so I feel as though I'm oathless and free of whatever. And their information is all freely available. So, if you took an oath, well, now if I know what you know, but you took an oath, who's more free? I'm free to talk about whatever I want. You've taken an oath because you wanted a leader. And the problem is that that community, the Freemasonry, etc., was built so that intellectuals could see one another from across the way. Because, to be honest, like now in the free man movement, I say I love judges. They want to come at me with pitchforks. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, no, that guy's actually, like, you want to talk about it? No, it's like you're getting chased down the street because you proposed an idea. And so that's why the ideal of something like Masonry and the ideal of something like court is that they know that there's a horde of people that will get after you for having an idea. So they created the place to have the ideas. And that's where initially that stuff came from. That's why lawyers and stuff, they all flocked to it because they don't want to do the research themselves. They wanted a leader. They wanted someone they wanted that little business connection, you know what I mean? They wanted some kind of whatever. And because of that, they're now in somebody's pocket. And, and that's not the Bible doesn't say do that. And then the other thing is courts, a lot of things about courts, and I have some stuff I'd like to pull up just to historically go through some stuff, but, in court it says, they bring you in there and they say, put your hand on the Bible and tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Now, granted, you're in a room that says, in God we trust on the wall. And I know even good Christians that will go in there and put their hand on that Bible and swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, proving to everyone in the courtroom that they never opened the Bible. So what it is the shit test. Because the Bible says, Bible says, swear not by heaven or by earth, if I remember correctly. Swear not. So the whole thing, it's like, I look at it like, when a new guy comes on a job, and they say to him, hey, I need 2 buckets of steam from down at Jimmy. Go tell Jimmy I need 2 buckets of steam as quick as possible. And usually they're telling you that to get you out of the way because you don't know your shit and you're just bothering people. Now, what they'll do is they'll run a game on you. But if you're savvy to the game, you say, wait a minute. You got to give me $5 to get the buckets of steam. You know, you're gonna counter. You gotta, you know. Now he's like, you know, now you're letting him know that you're not in on. You're in on the trip. And so, in one sense, that's a way for me. I look at it like, if you go into court and you're going to swear on the Bible, tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth about how much you're a sovereign, you don't understand the game really, because you've already gone in and you've already testified against yourself.
You know what they're doing here in the UK now? They ask you if it's okay for you to swear on the Bible, and if not, if you will just hold your hand up and read the piece of paper. So the piece of paper says, I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. But you don't have to put your hand on the Bible. They actually ask you, is it okay? And it sounds as if it's informal, as if it's, you know, just a side note. By the way, if it's okay with you to swear on the Bible, if not, if you would just read the piece of paper, okay? And what they do is they change tone and language. So they have the very structured language with their tone, which is almost like a priest in church or an air stewardess on a plane. Okay, they have this tone when they're doing legalities and terminology that has all kinds of pitfalls and traps and avenues out. And then they have the normal English, and they say, "Are you okay swearing on the Bible? Are you okay swearing on the Bible? What kind of legal language is that? Okay." You know, but that's what they do. And it's because here in the UK, there are freemen who understand all of the law, all of the true law, and have caused big problems to the establishment, where they're saying, we want to have our own courts. And the establishment is saying, but you can't. And they're saying, yes, we can. So it's a big deal. So they've negotiated.
Well, what's interesting to me is that, like, this is where it gets back into, like, the historical idea of the name, is that if you say your name that has a number or doesn't have a number or whatever it is, like you've locked yourself into a position. And one of the rules of court is that you can't prove anything. So because you can't prove anything, you have to understand that if you're trying to define yourself, therefore you're going against the rules of the game. So, because we understand that as intellectuals, as thinkers, we can't be locked into one thing all the time. We're too fluid. Our capacity is too great. If I'm with my grandmother, I'm not speaking the same way as I would be on the street. So your capacity will change, and we all recognize this. I think when you're dealing with English law and stuff like that, something I wanted to bring up today even is the idea that, would you agree that the Magna Carta is the kind of the foundational of the whole idea that you have these rights, right?
Yes.
Right. And this is where, like, you know, a lot of people are unfamiliar with the papal bull annulling, or forgive me, you know, and nullifying the Magna Carta. Forgive me. What they did was they actually they called the Magna Carta what do you call it? It was done under duress, because this gets into something where I want to talk about how history has affected us, because we think of history as the 1920s or something like that. And in reality, we need to understand that we're dealing with a system that goes back to actually contracts in 1215, when King John, I brought up some articles that I was going to share, just so that people could see the documents that I'm referring to. The Magna Carta was considered null and void. So you're operating actually under the good graces of the court system. You actually
can you explain maybe people who have no idea what happened at Runnymede? So can you just give maybe a brief précis just for people who don't understand it?
Give me a thank you. Keep me in line, because I do go all over the place and stuff. There's just so much to talk about. Okay, so in 1215, the King John had an issue with who was going to be, I believe, the viceroy. Actually, I'll look it up. The viceroy of the the representative of England in the Vatican, and I think he was a representative of the Vatican in regards to the relations. So there was a dispute over who that person was going to be. King John insisted it was somebody else, or the Archbishop. I think it was the position of the Archbishop, and they argued over this point to where King John was excommunicated from the Roman Empire, Roman Church. And so the Pope was going to come after that area of England. And during this time was drafted that there was two factions. One wanted in with the church so that there wouldn't be violence, because Rome would have come and invaded and crushed England. And then the barons who wanted to fight. And so they forced King John, like King John had been excommunicated from the church. In order to get back into the good graces of the church, he agreed to the the papal bull by Pope Innocent III. Like so that was like, or forgive me, like King John, in order to be taken back into the fold, had to relinquish rights to the minerals of the soil owned by the crown. So during this time, the Magna Carta was formulated, etc., and they went to King John to force him to sign the Magna Carta, which he did. Then he later got back into the good graces of the Pope, and they didn't go to war because he didn't want to have his kingdom crushed. So he didn't go to war with them and came back into the fold under those terms of agreement with the minerals and a security interest held by the Vatican over anything that the crown owned, which was any land that the Vatican would have an interest in the minerals of the soil.
Right. So can you just explain what a security interest is?
A security interest means that he has a vested interest in anything that the crown ever has possession of. And as we all familiar with, the sun never set on the crown at some point. So they had a security interest, meaning that they have kind of like legal title over the that anything that the crown owns. So possession is 9/10 of the law, and then like you have the one which is a title. So or control is that 1/10, and the owner is under the impression that he owns the thing, and then the real owner is someone who's not there but has the security interest and could take away what you think you own. So the Vatican has this interest. That's why I find it always interesting every like couple of years they parade, like when the new Pope happened, they paraded him around the world to show you who your new leader was. So that's why they make
with the chat and just see that everyone's got that point, because that's a really crucial detail.
I didn't even think about chat. Oh my God, I'm not even looking, so keep posting. But okay, so the Vatican had this interest in the crown's property. Now the crown goes on under King John to sign the Magna Carta, and the Pope is like, hey. Remember me, because now he's got a security interest on everything that the barons think they're taking title to. So, being that politics is war by another means, what they did was they convinced them that this thing had status. So they let them ride with it, and then on goes to America under the false premise that they've got the rights that were given to them by the Magna Carta. Now, if anyone knows goes sailing or anything, if you're off by one little bit in the beginning of your trip, like let's say you're trying to learn about law, and you're over there thinking that, well, I'll take it a step further. Okay, let's go into the Revolutionary War in the United States. A lot of people are under the impression that the United States won that war. The reality of the matter is, and you can find this out, is that you would go and read the treaty that ended the war. But who writes treaties? The winners or the losers? Who puts down the terms? The winner puts down the terms, right? So being that the winner puts down the terms, in the Paris Treaty, the Paris Peace Treaty of 1783, this is the opening paragraph at the end of the treaty. So how people have missed this, I'm not quite sure. But it says, in the name of the most holy and undivided Trinity. We could say that that's a reference to the Pope. I think we could all agree. And it having pleased the divine providence to dispose the hearts of the most serene and most potent Prince George III, by grace of God, the King of Great Britain, France, Ireland, Defender of the Faith, Duke of Brunswick and Lunenburg, Arch-Treasurer and Prince-Elector of the Holy Roman Empire, etc., and of the United States of America. Has anyone missed the part where he just called himself the King of the United States of America? Everyone got that down yet? So he's just declared that he's the King of the United States of America. So if you're under the impression that you've got freedoms based on the Constitution, you're going to be way off course after you get about 15 minutes in your trip. Never mind about 5 minutes into the conversation with an officer. But if you're going to think that you're relying on the Magna Carta and you think you're relying on the Constitution, then you're going to have a lot of questions when you're in the jail cell, too. You'll be wondering, well, how did that happen? Because you're operating under agreements that were made historically for you. And the whole thing is that, yes, you've got to say, no, I'm not the name. But you've also got to understand now there's more history involved. The plot thickens, if you will. So it's like you've got the United States loses the Revolutionary War. They create a 70-year line of credit. The collateral on the debt was the states. So in 70 years' time, Lincoln, sitting at the helm, in the du jour government, if you will, was asked to pay the default for the United States for the United States having defaulted on the debt. So what they did was they came up with the tax, and it was the tariff tax. It was shoot, where is it? Oh yeah, the Revenue Act of 1861. Okay, so check it out. They say down to the South, hey, we have defaulted on the line of credit to the Crown. We have to come up with this tax because the states are the collateral. Now it's 70 years later. Men have come and died, gone and left in the span of those 70 years in Congress and this, that, the other thing. All under these false impressions about the Magna Carta and the Constitution, and which is politics by another, or war by another means, politics. So 70 years later, Lincoln puts in the tax on the South, and the South says, screw you, we're not paying this tax, because they don't know anything about the agreements. They're over there operating like they got the Magna Carta's valid for them, and this, that, the other thing, and the rights. And so they say, no, we don't have to do that. We don't want any more. We're going to secede. And so they go, look, you're the collateral on the debt along with our stuff. You just happen to be making way more income than we're making. So
is that a bit more? Again, that's a very important detail. Can you expand on that a little bit more, or maybe just say it again?
How about this? Virginia was a country, because each state is a country. Title 28, 297 of the code is that the country of Virginia went all the way out to the Mississippi River, man. Like, Virginia was huge. It was like, it was like huge different territories, like, than what we think of. And so the idea is that they were going to say to them, hey, the South also was farming. It had slavery. They had all this labor. They had all this production going on. And the North said, look, you're going to pay more on the income because you're making more. And they said, no, we're going to secede. And so the United States, with Lincoln, they said, okay, black people down there and held in bondage, you want to be free? And they said, hell yeah. So they said, okay, you're going to be the first ever United States citizen. So they created the United States citizen. And all of them, being that it was better than being in slavery, were willing to sign up for U.S. citizenship. What they failed to tell those people was that in, let's say, for instance, like, this is a good case. It's Gardenia versus Board of Registers, 1909, just gives a good example, is that there are two classes of citizens, citizens of the United States and of the state. And one may be a citizen of the former without being a citizen of the latter. That is Gardenia v. Board of Registers, 1908. And then there's another one, Murphy v. Ramsey in 1885. Federal citizenship is a municipal franchise domiciled in the District of Columbia, and the political rights of federal citizens are franchises which they hold as privileges at the legislative discretion of Congress. I'll continue. This is another case, U.S. v. Crucial.
You're going to have to boil that down into layman's terms.
Okay. Yeah. I just want to give some case law, so it's not. I'll read this one last case law so that it just gets.
Fair enough.
So wants a reference in Maxwell v. Doe. The privileges and immunities of citizens of the United States do not necessarily include all the rights protected by the first 8 amendments to the federal Constitution. So you don't even have
Okay, so
the U.S.
yeah,
citizen.
so now,
Oh, forgive me if I just finished the point. U.S. citizens, they've kept to the same thing in the Constitution that black people only have 3/5 the rights of states of the white state citizen. So the U.S. citizen was kept in the fold of only having 3/4 the rights or 3/5 the rights of a state citizen, because no one in their right mind at that time would have ever abandoned their state citizenship for any kind of United States citizenship, because people knew that the United States was the collateral for the line of credit.
so if you explain to people now what the term privileges means.
Okay. A privilege is something that a father gives his daughter, that his son gives his, or father gives his son. It's not an inherent right to like your freedom. A privilege is like, hey, you can take the car but be back by 6. A privilege is a right to sleep in my house, and as long as you're under this roof, you're never going to do this, that, the other thing. Go get your own place. But if you're in someone's house, then you're operating under their privileges.
So when the government bestows privileges or defines privileges or awards privileges, if people don't know what those privileges are, then they can't act or respond to them clearly because they don't know what it is that the government has said.
Privileges are not rights, is my point.
That's it.
So privileges are something that someone gives to you. Your rights are what you have because you have unalienable rights protected by the constitutions of the states and the United States, because each state has its own constitution, has its own code, its own jurisdictional issues. And then the United States has its own code, own jurisdiction issues, but some of them seem like they work relatively together. Like all your protections under the United States Constitution, freedom of speech as a state citizen, are protected. You are protected to have freedom of speech, right to bear arms, all these things. That's for a state citizen. A United States citizen, or the country's citizen, whatever country it is, anything under the IMF, this is all the same way. That country, the federal citizen, is not the same as the state citizen, and the state citizen has rights, whereas the United States citizen has privileges. So, in order to make it known that in order to be free, you have to know what your rights are, okay, and then you also have to know how to protect those rights. So, if we can understand in this game of language, this conditional acceptance. Are you a United States citizen? So long as you could show me that my state citizenship doesn't take priority over it. Doesn't my state citizenship grant me all the immunities and afford me all the protections of the Constitution? Or would you be trying to define me as a United States citizenship or citizen? And wouldn't you be belittling me? Wouldn't that be slander, sir?
This is one of the things.
Such a low life,
This is one of the things that has to be made very, very clear. So, as I understand it, the state citizenship trumps the federal citizenship.
Yes.
Now, in the US, there's been a big debate for some time now on taxes to the federal government. The Inland Revenue collecting taxes for you being a citizen of the federal government. But as Isa is explaining, you can be a citizen of your state and not a citizen of the federal government.
Here's the issue, though. What did you buy your milk with today? What did you buy your coffee with today? You bought it with the federal currency. And you don't know how to get anything else without it. You're stuck with this federal currency in your hand, and then the worst part is they're going to be like, well, I'm not a United States citizen. Now, you know what I mean? Well, now you're dealing with a conundrum because you're holding United States citizenship money. So you can't just say like, oh, I'm not. You can't just be like, oh, honey, we haven't been married for 25 years. You got that? That's what you're saying.
Maybe, Isa, maybe there's I know there's a lead up that you're getting to, but I want to quantify this in some practical application which you have experienced. So at this stage, I think it's appropriate to explain how you've put this into practical application so that people watching can, rather than hearing lots of things you're quoting and you're saying, there's problems, there's issues with that, because you're being strictly accurate, but I want to I want the climax, the joyous bit of you actually utilizing this.
If there's one thing that is a fault of mine, I have a hard time getting what I like. That's why I do music sometimes, because I feel like I can speak better through it. So, but yeah, I appreciate the help. So, like, the idea is this: I had a friend. She had an older friend that was got a letter in the mail saying that if she didn't show up to court, they were going to foreclose on the house, and this was the last time that she was ever going to have a chance to appear before the court. And it was going to be it was a motion for a summary judgment default, wrapped up, good to go. Marshals are coming to get you out of the house in 10 days. She was very distraught. They came to me, she had asked me what if I could help, and there's another topic we can get into about discharging and talking about money and stuff, which is another advanced subject, which I don't want to get into. But what I had done was I conditionally accept the offer for her to go into court that day for a summary judgment upon proof of claim that they couldn't grant her 90 days to try to seek legal counsel and resolve the matter. Now, she was afraid. They'd never called the lawyers before. They'd never done anything. We're really afraid of the court system and the people that were coming on representing the bank. So what I said was, call them. And he's, oh, no, we can't call them. And I said, look, just call them. They're okay people. They know what's up. They're going to give you, they're not trying to, they don't care, really. They're and the point is they want to see how you're going to behave. And like I told her, I said, look, they've sent letters to your house. You didn't respond to it. They've called your house. They've tried to get in touch with you in numerous ways, and you're over there talking about, I'm not this, I'm not that. Let's just call them up. So we called them up, and she said, I'm calling on behalf of this, that, the other, this case, and there's appears we got a court date this week, and I was wondering if we could, please, if we could do, I'd be happy to go into court, so long as you could show me that you couldn't grant me 90 days to seek legal counsel to resolve the matter. And the guy goes, oh yeah, no problem. I'll take care of the paperwork. I'll do it. And the lawyer put in the paperwork for the 90-day continuance. She didn't have to do anything else. And I still insisted that she, it was, she said it maybe, oh yeah, no, because that was it. He was like, yeah, if you can put in a motion or something. And he agreed to it. And so she put in the motion, she served both parties, and she got her 90 days. But that was like 10 days, about to lose your house, turned into now 90 days where you can figure out and we can talk, and I can try to explain stuff to you. But what inevitably happens is that, she was insistent that she knew what she was going to do, and I just kind of was like, okay, good luck. Because I did my best. I got her the 90 days, and then she was insistent that she was going to go some other route with somebody else. I was just like, okay. But you know what I mean? I was kind of like, I don't know what to tell you if you're not going to trust what I want to teach you. Because what I espouse is that the judges are your best friend, and that this free man movement is so vehemently, I don't know the right word, against thinking that way. So because they don't want to think outside, what gets me is there's people out here that are I'm so open-minded and I'm so whatever. Well then, hold on. Open your mind about these court systems too, because if you don't know what an accommodation party appearing specially having a priority security interest in the collateral means, then that might mean that there's a door you've never opened before. And so with that, you might not know as much as you might not have it as locked down as you think you do in regards to we're going to storm down there and go get them, or we're going to protest and march in the streets, or we're going to fill up the paperwork with, the courts with paperwork and just shut down the courts and they'll never be able to operate again, and where's the victim? Because that gets nowhere.
But saying that the judge is your friend might be a little misleading, because it's not to say that you could quote something similar to that and still get thrown back in the cells repeatedly. Am I right?
Well, I would say this, is that if you're in a room full of, let's say I'm in a room full of ballers, right, and I see you, right, and we're at a very serious business meeting, okay? Wouldn't it be disrespectful for me to go, Nathan, remember, man, flat earth, dude? yo, man, like I'm with you and your boss, and I'm just like, yo, bro, man, remember, dude, you made that video about the flat Earth, and like, you know, and like the flat Earth is so awesome, man, and you know, hey, everybody, Nathan's a flat earther, just like me. How do you think that's going to look for us in a room full of ballers? That's what it is. It's going to be, shut the fuck up, just, I don't know him. Security? Security, bailiff, get him. You know what I mean? Because that's what's going to happen to you because you're trying to, you're in a room full, okay, this gets back to something else. Let's move along historically. 1933, all U.S. citizens, well, they were all given every one of the state citizens were given the option to become U.S. citizens because of the Great Depression, right? Social Security. So everyone goes and signs up for the U.S. citizenship. Now, we all know that they don't have the protections under the first 8 fucking amendments, pardon my language, but it's quite ridiculous. U.S. citizens are not protected by the first 8 amendments. There's case law for that. So if you're going to go in, they all accepted U.S. citizenship. What happened was the government had to then label them as enemies of the states. So all U.S. citizens are classified as enemies of the states from the 1933 Trading with the Enemy Act. So you still want to be a U.S. citizen. So like and I, you know, I'm not a U.S. citizen, but I have an interest in one. Is the way that I put it. I'm not trying to freaking get rid of my U.S. citizenship, or I'm not this or that. No, I just know how to control it. So like, we don't want to do that either. But and now the U.S. citizen is an enemy of the state. So if we can understand that, that's why the cops are pretty rough on everybody. You know, and what they've done is they've given you at birth, they've given you a birth certificate. That birth certificate in other language is also called an indented deed. Get yours out. Look on the corners. There's indentations. And if you get a land deed, it's going to be an indented deed. What can you do with deeds? You can sell deeds. Because deeds are money. But deeds are real money. And Article 1, Section, I believe 10, talks about how there shall be no gold or anything other than gold and silver for currency for the United States. In 1861, when Lincoln had to go from being a de jure government into a military government, he started issuing executive orders. And we went into a military police state, and we became 2 separate nations almost. You have a republic, the de jure, and the democracy, which is the executive order side, policy side. You know, so it's a policy thing, not a de jure common law issue. So we're dealing with equity, courts of equity. And so everything becomes a charge. It becomes a financial element. That's why Title 27 of the Code of Federal Rules, 7211, states that all crimes are commercial.
Sorry, you might have to explain what a charge is as well.
Okay, like a charge like a credit card. You charge your credit card, and then there's a debt to be paid. So when the citizen is charged, the U.S. citizen is charged with a crime, there's an obligation. But now, as someone that also has an interest in the state citizen, because I was given the indented deed, I'm the one who gave the whole line of credit to the United States to print currency. So what you did was we gave over this deed to the federal government from the state. So a state citizen is an alien to the United States. And that's why the Treasury, the U.S. Treasurer, is also known as the alien property custodian. Because the aliens have given over their property to be sold and exchanged on the market, on the SEC. So that's why when you go in for a mortgage, you're asking the bank, you're licensing the bank, who is licensed by the state, to go into that account and draw funds. If you're going to take funds out, in the same way that you gave a bond to create all the money in that particular federal situation, you're the one who can discharge the liability of the United States to have to pay it back.
You've got to don't brush over that. So give that again, boil that down.
I know I said a lot. Yeah.
No, just mainly that last bit because that's the most crucial bit.
Okay, the thing is that they gave us a deed, an indented deed. We handed it over, And what they did was they sent you a Social Security card. Well, on the front is the number that everyone's memorized, and for some reason they keep using it to get their cable and phone. I don't know why you guys do that. But so like they've given you this card with the number on the front that you have memorized, and if you turn it over, there is a number on the back. There'll be a letter and 8 numbers. Well, if you take a dollar bill, if you take a dollar bill, on that dollar bill you'll see a letter and 8 numbers. Because that number that's on the back of your card, your Social Security card, is on a dollar bill somewhere. Because you granted them the right to take it from that account to make it. So when the U.S. prints currency, every time they print currency, the national debt goes up. Who do they owe? It's not really China. It's not really whatever. It's you. So the thing is that we have to switch our perception to realize around that it's the United States or the British government, whoever, whatever federal currency issue, they owe you. They owe the people. They owe the state citizen. So we're over here thinking it's China or this, that, the other thing, and all this other stuff, which is going on the SEC as well. But really, you're the one that they owe. And why can they keep printing currency? Because every day there's more people being born, handing over Social Security, handing over bonds to the social, and then that's why the Fed, in their mercy over here in the state, has not raised the interest rates. Because if they raise the interest rates, you're going to have Venezuela kind of problems. Now, if something like that were to happen, and they went into the scary world of hyperinflation and where's your gold and silver coins, guys, then what you better do is you better know that you could discharge the liability of those things anyway. So instead of us getting to the point where we have to think that we have freaking half dollars that are going to solve the freaking puzzle, we got to realize that we could essentially say, oh, where's the bill? Where's the bill? Oh, it's only $10 million? Get over here. And I'm being dead serious. Go look up the UCC 3603. It's the Uniform Commercial Code. Let's pull it up right now. It's one thing I haven't gotten to. I was trying to get to it. So, this one's a beauty. I love this one like so much. It's just so beautiful, man. You got nothing but victory. Really. If we're educated, and then you got to learn how to talk. Because they don't. Remember, you're trying to call the judge a flat earther in the open courtroom. He's like, get him the fuck out of here, please. So, okay, Article 3603, tender of payment.
You have to screen share.
Oh, yeah, let me do that.
Right-hand side, second icon down, screen share.
Gotcha. Cool. So, you can see me?
Not yet. There we go.
Okay, tender of payment. So, it's interesting. Okay, so tender of payment. If tender of payment of an obligation to pay an instrument is made to a person entitled to enforce the instrument, the effect of tender is governed by principles of law applicable to tender of payment under a simple contract. Now that's important. I'm going to leave it there for 1 second. Is that Article 1, Section 10 of the United States Constitution says that no state shall impair the obligation of contracts. So tender of payment can be made under a simple contract. Now, if tender of payment of an obligation to pay an instrument is made to a person entitled to enforce the instrument and the tender is refused, there's discharge. To the extent of the amount of the tender of the obligation of an endorser or accommodation party having a right of recourse with respect to the obligation to which the tender relates. Well, if you're asking me for Federal Reserve notes and you owe me because I let you print Federal Reserve notes, then aren't I an accommodation having a right of recourse with respect to the obligation to which the tender relates? If I'm the one that granted
you posed that as a question, but yeah, if you can stop screen sharing, that'd be great.
Yeah, like
you posed it as a question. Make it a statement.
Well, I'm uncomfortable with statements. See, because the thing is this, is that if, I mean, because again, you can't prove anything. I can't prove to you that that's the deal, you know what I mean?
Okay,
but I can read
phrase it in a way that's just a bit more digestible to the layman.
Okay, look, the tender that we're dealing with for any financial obligation, that tender is what you created and gave to the government to create. So you've already got an ongoing relationship with regards to the tender. That tender, you have the right to discharge. Let me go back into, for instance, with, I'm going to screen share again. Where was I? With the, oh yeah, House Joint Resolution 192. Derp. I thought I had it pulled up. I got caught up in something. And it's even well known. These guys at the Freedom School are pretty cool. I don't like pulling up their stuff. It's not like little more official stuff. This isn't it. I don't want to like give them hearsay for what somebody wrote. But here, okay, House Joint Resolution 192. Okay, cool. So here we go. We can see this?
Yes.
Okay, so this first part here is it says it's to do with the Indians, the Menominee Indians. Now the second part here. Resolved by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America in Congress assembled that the Secretary of War be and is hereby authorized to permit Pushing to receive instructions from the United States Military Academy. Okay, this is that. Oh, forgive me. This is about Pushing. So not be, the next one. Okay. To assure uniform value to the coins and currencies of the United States. Whereas, check this out. You got to remember, the Constitution says only gold and silver can be used in the payment of debts. This is House Joint Resolution 192, 1933. Whereas the holding of or dealing in gold affect the public interest and are therefore subject to proper regulation and restriction. And whereas the existing emergency, remember foreclosure, they've defaulted on a debt, another 70-year line of credit since Lincoln. Forgive me, I missed this point, but there was another 70-year line agreement because the North brought in the slaves. Oh, forgive me, let me explain this out one sec. The slaves were given the offer to be United States citizens. They said to the United States said to the South, give us our property. And they said, we're not giving up the slave trade. So the North went in and demolished them, and that's why the South was so decimated. Because they wouldn't give up the property of the United States citizen, which was the slave, which everyone has turned into this fantastical story about the liberation of black people, which I love, and I respect Frederick Douglass, and I respect all those gentlemen, but there's a lot more to it. And I love that, we have what we think is equality of rights. I want us to pursue that a little further and realize that in House Joint Resolution 192, whereas the holding of dealing in gold affects the public interest and are therefore subject to proper regulation and restriction, and whereas the existing emergency, the default, has disclosed that provisions of obligations which purport to give the obligee a right to require payment in gold or a particular kind of coin or currency of the United States or in an amount in money of the United States measured thereby obstruct the power of Congress to regulate the value of the money of the United States and are inconsistent with the declared policy of Congress to maintain at all times the equal power of every dollar, coined or issued by the United States in the markets and in the payment of debts. Now therefore be it resolved by the Senate and the House of Representatives of the United States of America in Congress assembled that every provision contained in or made with respect to any obligation which purports to give the obligee a right to require payment in gold or a particular kind of coin or currency or in an amount in money of the United States measured thereby is declared to be against public policy. And no such provision shall be contained in or made with respect to any obligation hereafter incurred. Every obligation hereafter incurred, whether or not any such provision is contained therein or made with respect thereto, shall be discharged upon payment. Your signature, dollar for dollar, in any coin or currency which at the time of payment is legal tender for public and private debts. any such provision contained in any law authorizing obligations to be issued by or under authority of the United States is hereby repealed. But the repeal of any such provision shall not invalidate any other provision or authority contained in such law. So you've got a currency, that's House Joint Resolution 192. You have a currency that you helped create operating in a system that cannot demand you to pay in it. They've got no grounds to demand the payment of you to pay anything in Federal Reserve notes, because if you were to pay in Federal Reserve notes, it further devalues the dollar because they have to print more Federal Reserve notes.
So, in the most legitimate sense of the word,
yeah,
it's a Ponzi scheme. It's a neurolinguistic trick.
Nah, that's to say there isn't a remedy.
No. I don't mean this.
Check it. There's no remedy in a Ponzi scheme.
Okay, what I mean is...
You just get took and that's it. Right?
Yes, but what I'm referring to is that these things are true and established and not explained, but instead you have this illusion that every time you're charged for something, you have to deal with it. That's the neurolinguistic trick.
Well, check it out. We have to deal with it. It's the how we deal with it that they've got us tricked.
That's it.
It's the idea to think that you don't have to pay it. My thing is My thing is this. You better freaking pay your bills. But what about, why are you denying yourself the right to make a piece of napkin a bill? I can make a piece of napkin worth $10 million. I can send you a letter and say, hey, like, yo, this is $10 million, and like, yo, like, pay me back in 2 weeks, okay? And if there's any problem with that, just respond under notary seal, penalty of perjury in 10 days, or else it's agreed that you owe me the 10 mil, and hey, have fun with all that money. Now, I send you a napkin. Better yet, I send you like a football with a Post-it note stapled to it in a box, and you got it, and you just open it up, and you go, whoa, and I say, hey, this is $10 million. Please respond in 10 days under notary seal, or else it's agreed you're going to pay me back triple in 30 days. Enjoy the 10 mil. Have fun on me.
Can you explain how the petrodollar would differ from the gold standard in this scenario?
It's irrelevant. It's just part of the politics, and part of the politics is just another step into, because you'll be arguing about, well, who's the boss of the petrol company? And, they'll get you on to some other shit. So you'll just be down the hole wondering, well, are they going to hire Jim? He's a real good CFO, and I've got money in gold, and they're investing in it, and you're going to be talking about not the solution. So they've got answers and remedies for all of your witty comebacks, too. Of just like, oh, yeah, go to that line. Oh, go to this line. And that's where you better know your business so you don't go to anyone's line. And you know what you're saying, and you know what you're dealing with. But that's
one way to help people to accept this is, it's going to seem like I'm digressing or it's a tangent. It isn't. People work to be able to keep themselves alive by feeding, by eating, by consuming, and having warmth. Now, what is they saying, what has actually been established by the courts around the world is this. If you default on your obedience to conform, so for instance, you burgle a house, you commit a crime, you have not conformed, what they do is they take you, they house you in prison, and feed you and give you warmth. So there's this inherent value that you have, and they have to respect this. In countries where they have legal systems and jails, what are people doing homeless with no food? Are you seeing? You have to go out of your way to receive food and shelter in a prison, but it doesn't matter if there's a tempest outside. I would sooner be in a prison than in the tempest. And so it's a trick. It's and a way of hiding your value.
I want to clarify too. I don't want to leave that football with a Post-it note holding, just in the air like that. I want to clarify this. Like, the point is that the UCC, as we just read, said if tender or payment of an obligation to pay an instrument is made to a person entitled to the enforcing instrument, the effect of tender is governed by the principles of law applicable to tender of payment under a simple contract. I sent you a football with a Post-it note saying it's worth $10 million. That's the contract. That's the end-all, be-all of that law between the parties. Is that agreement that didn't you accept the football and that it was worth $10 million? If you say nothing, then you agreed that you owe me the thing. But you could go you could turn around and say, I'd be happy to accept your football and pay you $30 million in 30 days, so long as you could show me that by me having sent it back to you, you've accepted a $100 million gift and you've agreed to owe me $20 billion in 5 years. Unless, of course, you respond under notary seal under penalty of perjury. And that now you're dealing with this ebb and flow of contracts. And all we're doing is giving value to something that's just the football with the Post-it note. And it's the same deal with these contracts in court. Although we have we've been so digged into our head of working $7 an hour and, grinding away and spending $50. It's like antagonistic when someone tells you that maybe there's another way. And so when I propose this, I understand people are working their ass off. People are trying, I'm not trying to make fun of anyone that's out there grinding and fucking making money and feeding their family. But we also have this other intellectual thing going on where if it came down to it and they're going after grandma's house and you don't have $10 million to cover the lien that's been on the thing because of a mechanics thing, you got all these debts on this thing, and you're like, there's no amount of 7-hour job I could do to handle this. You could say, where is the bill? And if they were to give you the bill, you could take that bill and convert it into an agreement that would settle the debt with the CFO of whoever it was that had the right to send you that bill. Because you might say to them, hey, look, you're the CFO of this company. CFOs can bind the company to the agreements. So if I send a note to the CFO over a bill, let's say I'm dealing with a bank too. A bank is registered to operate with the SEC. Now, if they send me the $10 million bill, and I say, turn it over, sign the back, just like I would a check, put it in an envelope, send it with write another note on top of it saying, hey, here, as I've recently discovered, it appears to be that there is you operate using my line of credit. Please feel free to go get the line of credit under these numbers, and there's a way to do it. I'm not going to explain everything over this thing because it's like there's too many ways to do it. But you could create an agreement with the CFO saying, hey, here's this amount of money. Please, as a member of the United States, you have the right to write it as a loss and deal with it with the accounting with the U.S. Treasury at the end of the year for you. It's being a loss. So use it as a loss. But I'm not saying it's a loss. I'm saying this is worth $20 million for a debt that's worth 10. So feel free to make it a $10 million loss for you on your books. This is what I think we have to teach the CFOs how to do of companies to learn to then turn around and use it with the United States. This is how we could solve the problem, is that the CFOs could become hip to it. The banks could become hip to it. You could go get a credit card, have your line of debt go out, and then when they send you the bill, hey, send it to the CFO, have your agreement on the private side with the CFO. So you're not calling him a flat earther in open day court. You're just dealing with him privately. Hey,
yes.
Good.
What you're saying, Issa, is already done by corporations.
Yeah.
Corporations do actually do what Issa just said. I happen to know somebody who worked at the Royal Bank of Scotland before 2008. Now, what they did, the Royal Bank of Scotland, was they wrote off debts of up to £15,000. They just made a new rule, a policy within the bank, to write off these debts with the Treasury, which means at the end of the year, instead of paying £115 million in taxes, if they can write off 15 million because they've just written off those debts. They pay 100 million instead, and they just write off. It's basically, it's a way of cooking the books, but legally. You're saying we lost this much money.
Yep, it's just a matter. It's called double entry bookkeeping accounting. You know, it's just double entry. It's just all you have one side here. Like a lot of people are under the impression that when you go to the bank or you go to a store and you buy something, that right there, all of a sudden your money's been transferred over to their account. What's happened is merely the banks are operating paperwork. And so, like, this bank has agreed that it received, the bank of the business owner has received this credit, or, so like, or received the funds. They write it down in their books as something that's come in. And then the bank on the other side is writing it as something that went out. And there's a tricky, I'm not going to get too deep into the very back and forth movement of the way that accounting actually works with regards to banks. Because it gets like, like you get into the credits and debits and how, what is, it's an obligation. When the bank has your money, it's an obligation for them to make sure that that they're going to, at the ready, you know what I mean, to pay your debts, you know what I mean? So they've got to then have a paper that's going to go out so that at that certain time, their books and their accounting has all leveled off. So it's all really just paperwork and accounting that gets sorted out quarterly or every 20 days or whatever it is in regards to how they're licensed by the SEC and how their businesses are meant to operate. Because you got to remember, their businesses are also enemies of the states because they're United States entities. That's why the state taxes them. They're like, you bastard, you U.S. entity. And then the United States is like turning to its employees, United States citizens. United States citizens are employees of the federal government. That's Title 5, 552A. And those businesses with EIN numbers, which are Social Security numbers for business, are all tied up in as enemies of the states. So the states are looking down on those people, like, are down on the citizens in those companies. So there's all of these other ramifications going on. So that the way that those banks are operating is all double entry notifications. So what we've got to learn to do is evolve into this double entry notifications, and it's just so, like, a lot of people, I don't know if they're familiar, but the judge sits at the bench, and bench in Latin is bank. So you can do accounting for your citizen with the United States at the court, in there with the bench. You're at the bank. It's like I asked for the charting instruments one time, and they gave them to me. I signed on the back of them, handed them to the bailiff. They sent them back over, and they got rid of me out of court. I didn't have.
Here in the UK, we have the Parliament. We have the House of Commons and the House of Lords. Okay, in the House of Commons, where bills are written, they're then sent to the House of Lords, and then they're approved or refused. Basically, okay. This is what happens in the UK. Now, in the House of Commons in the UK, you have a character who's not voted into Parliament, who's not voted by the MPs. This character is called the Remembrancer. Even people in the UK who think they know about law and the political system haven't heard of this character, but he sits there every day. The Remembrancer is a watchdog for the banks. He's for the Bank of England. He's there on behalf of the Bank of England and the Bank of England's interests. Now, it bears explaining, the Bank of England does not belong to England. It's like the Federal Reserve. It is not actually federal. The Bank of England is just called the Bank of England. But it does not belong to British citizens or British sovereigns. So the Remembrancer sits there to make sure that no law is discussed that will cause a problem to the banks. And this person just sits there. Anybody can look it up. The Remembrancer, this person is called.
Well, I'll tell you what, he's probably remembering the contracts that they have with the Vatican. Because the thing is that what a lot of people don't, also like the IRS and stuff like that, like the U.S. is printing all this money, and it actually owes its citizens. But by the law of escheat, the Vatican has claimed the interest. Nobody has stepped up and claimed or combated it. The law of escheat means that, it's like, is this your phone? Is this your phone? No, it's not. As far as I can tell, you're not responding. I'm gonna take the phone. Okay, not your phone. Is this? It's like nobody's responding. Okay, well, shoot, I got a free phone. That's the law of escheat. And so what the U.S. and court is doing with citizens, and what the Vatican, I'd imagine, is doing with all currency, and monitoring all currency of the IMF, is it's saying, that it's saying, is this anyone's? No? Okay, we'll take it. Because that's what they've done. And then everyone's like, are you the boss? Are you the boss? Are you the head mason? Are you the boss? Are you the head doctor? Everyone's looking for the leader. So because everyone's looking for the leader, they go, is this yours? And they're like, no, I'm looking for the leader. And then because nobody stepped up, they're like, happened again, take it all. And so when they're coming in, you have the right, like when they say, are you a U.S. citizen? Like, are you a British citizen? And you go, yeah, okay. Well, you've just defined yourself as this collateral of this awful debt. I don't know why you do that. But, okay, were you here on the night of the whatever? Oh, no, but I was over on the thing. Oh, well, okay, well, he's a U.S. citizen, though, so it doesn't matter anymore, whatever he said. So the cop's got to be right. So, like, there's that side of a certain element where you're dealing with, like, this presumption. What's up, Pete? You're dealing with a presumption that, like, that because no one's come and claimed it and no one said they're the priority interest holder, the Vatican's got paperwork that says it might be. So they're like, oh, we might be. And then, down the line, U.S. is like, oh, well, we could take that. We'll take that U.S. citizen and throw him in jail for the state, put him in jail. Remember, it's a county jail who gets to put a lien right on the citizen's bond, which is being traded on the SEC. That's why the private prison industry is taking off, because they know the county gets a lot of funds from having all these enemy combatants, U.S. citizens, in its power, and then they turn to the U.S. and under the agreements, they get to lien that bond. That's where you're paving your roads and yada yada, not your taxes.
Issa, we've invited British freeman, otherwise known as Poncho Pete. How you doing, Pete?
Hello, I'm not a free man, but well, I believe I'm a free man. It depends how you go about talking about yourself.
Well, we had this conversation the other day. You said we both came to this conclusion. I'm going to get straight to it about the letters.
Oh yeah, I'm being told that's right. So I am a free man. Nobody can tell me what to do.
So, well, remember that freedom implies you got a lot of a responsibility, right?
I've got a lot of responsibility.
That's right. If you want to be free, you're going to have a lot of responsibility, and that brings up the philosophical question of what is freedom and all this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So the thing is, I'm saying, if we understand that our responsibility is to understand the whole game, like I was telling my cousin sometime, I said, a lot of people are under the impression that, well, I'm a math guy. Well, I do things with my hands. You know what I mean? Like, and then they've limited themselves. They're just the guy who does things with his hands. And I said, no. I was like, yo, you've got to be at 360 degrees. You better know about how to fix your tire on the side of the road, how to calculate your thing for business, how to eat healthy diet food, and don't rely on anyone.
Just like
that means responsibility. But yeah, brother, I see you over there, man. What's up, brother? So what was the issue with the papers and letters, or is there something to clarify?
Yeah, well, this is the thing I was hoping to get your opinion on, actually, Issa. So Pete and I had this discussion a couple of nights back about the process in the UK of becoming a freeman, and the conclusion we came to was that, well, by buying into the system that you have to essentially ask to be free,
exactly,
that therein defeats the purpose. But maybe, Pete, if you can just explain to the viewers exactly what it is we're talking about, and then we'll get Issa's view on it. I don't know if you can just mute for a moment, Issa, if you would.
Certainly.
Okay. As the law, as legal stands, I always say law, as legal stands, your name's given away, or your name's stolen, sorry, and turned into a business at the age of 7, and at the age of 16, those businesses are floated and go on to make more money. So anytime you want to borrow something, you're borrowing it from your own social security account which has been in business and trading in your name and has an X amount in it, depending on how well you've done. So anything that's registered in the name that was stolen from you, which is classed as human rights, and if you look up human in English Black's Law Dictionary, it describes monster. So when you say I'm a human being, you're actually saying I'm a monster before the court, rather than saying I'm a man and a free living soul, a free man, you know. What do you want of me? Because anything that's legal doesn't apply to you, it applies to the birth certificate that's agreeing to whatever that act is, regardless of what your opinion of it is. This birth certificate says put me in prison if I don't pay you fine. So to become a free man in England, you have to send letters to the Ministry of Defence, I believe it's the Archbishop, the Queen, the Prime Minister, and the Home Secretary, I think it is. That's 5, and then you're classed as deregistered, if you like. But you never were registered. You never consented to it. You never consented to letting someone take your name away. You couldn't speak for yourself. So it's up to you to stand up for yourself. Like Issa always says, you know, how much you let them walk on you is, you know, it's up to you. You either put up with it or you don't put up with it. Issa don't put up with it. I don't put up with it. You know, you can let them push you around for the rest of your days and die a slave and find out at the end what life was about.
And what the
start living your life now?
Just so we boil this specific point down, what's the purpose?
Oh right, sorry. In the I believe it's the Magna Carta. It's written, and in England it's the Human Bill of Rights. No government official can take your horse and cart off you without your consent. So they trick you by stealing your name. Your horse and cart is your car in modern day. That's why it's graded on horsepower, Nathan. So anything you register, you've given the car away, even though it's free for any traveller to travel the Kings and Queens highways free of charge, as long as you're not in commerce. So with your family and friends, nobody can bother you. You know, you're not a driver, you're not a taxi driver, you're not a bus driver, you're not a private hire driver, you're a traveller. Okay? So anybody bothering you at that point shouldn't be bothering you, because you've already got the right to travel for free. Same goes for your house, etc. But back to the Bill of Rights in England, or Magna Carta, it's any government official can't tell you what to do, say, think, or pay without your consent. And that is it, in total. Just like when it comes to the legal side, it's any loss, harm, or injury. Those 3 words cover all eventualities. And those 4 words cover your birth certificate, basically. It's done without your consent. But just by saying your name, it's a verbal contract, you've consented. And I'm sure you've heard Issa tell you enough times, you know, consider what he's telling you. You've got the right to remain silent. Anything you do will be used in a court of law and order against you. But it's not against you, it's against your birth certificate. But you turn up like a dumbbell because you get a letter saying turn up at court. But a letter is a summons. If it was a real summons from a proper law breaking, a proper breaking of the law, it'd be a policeman at the door. It won't be a letter through the door asking you to appear. Because the minute you step into the courthouse, you're as good as guilty when you say your name. Once you tell the clerk your name, say.
If we think of the word summons and
it's
summoning,
an invitation.
Yes, but they use the word to mean you're invited to appear. Okay, yeah. Appear. Not attend, appear, and they send out a summons.
Oh, they're summoning you. Yeah, got you.
They're summoning. Okay, and so what they're doing in a roundabout way, they're saying we have this thing that we call a vehicle, and we need a driver for this vehicle in the court. We need a spirit to incorporate this corporation we are trying to get money from. So please come to court and represent this. We are summoning your spirit. You're going to have to bring it with your legs, but that's what the summons is. And you can say, I'm not an entity that can be summoned by you. You can take me there with handcuffs if I've done something seriously wrong, but if I haven't, I am not this kind of thing.
Right.
I've done this in court, by the way, and they took off a lot of the summons that they sent to me. So they did actually say, okay, well, we'll write these ones off. So just so you all know, I pointed this out.
Oh, but check it
in
out, though.
court.
Check it out, though. But you paid something at the end of it, right?
Yes. Oh, of course, absolutely.
Yeah.
So they say, you owe us this much, and you go, hold on a second, how are you saying this much? And they say, well, this much according to this, and this much. It's a trick. It's a trick.
No, but watch. They summoned you, and you appeared.
No, they took me there with handcuffs.
Right.
I didn't appear. I don't.
Right. But the point is that you gave currency. You signed something. You did something like that, which gave evidence that there was that driver you're talking about. Because it's like I go like this. I was talking to like Hillbilly at some point, and I think we were kind of back and forth on the subject. But I was like, are you a U.S. citizen? And he's like, well, this, that, and thing. But I was like, are you kind of like a little bit of a U.S. citizen now? It's like, as long as I can get you to just agree to just a little bit, it's just enough. And so, like, my point is that they've summoned you, regardless of, because like they got you to pay in some way. And not that I don't think that what you did is fucking awesome, because that's how, like I've been saying to Hillbilly, it's like I've learned so much from all the people around me. I've made so many mistakes, and I've made so many mistakes. It's like you have to go through and try to like I like that approach of like, you're on the summons, but then what you wind up in is this kind of like, like that, it's like a magical talk, which to me doesn't have practical roots. Like if I go in there, well, I'm the living man, the one that that animates, or I could come in as the priority security interest holder, which sounds more like collegiate, if you will, like versus being in there and trying to be like, talk animation, this, like, and then never mind, like, if you're trying to bring into the idea that you're dealing there with law, it's like, I look at it like this. It's like, hey, can you hand me that pen? Yeah, for $5. You got it? So if I got a letter that said, hey, you want to come to court, I'd be like, yeah, so long as you're agreeing that you've denied me equal protection due process of law and that you and yours have accepted a $10 million penalty, and I'm appearing for a summary judgment as evidence to the motion attached here too. Would you like to continue? That's the educated no. That's the educated, like, adolescent no put into adult sophistication. It's saying, love to. So long as you let me have your house, I can take your wife out to dinner on Friday, and I can have your car, and I'm gonna make it real bad for you, maybe. And so the thing is that, like, if you agree to it because you can't come under notary seal penalty of perjury saying that you didn't send me a letter and that your officers didn't deny me equal protection due process of law, then it would have to be agreed under the Articles of Title 41, or Article 1, Section 10. No state shall impair the obligation of contracts. So I send your DA a motion that says, hey, bud, looks like you and yours denied me equal protection due process of law, and you owe me $10,000, unless. Oh, no, as evidenced by this arrest ticket that I have here, and unless you can prove to me that I wasn't arrested on the date that it says on the ticket that was issued by the court that you work for, that unless you could say I wasn't arrested then, and that your officers didn't deny me equal protection due process of law with first-hand knowledge, then let it be agreed that you're going to accept the penalty. You're going to be the one who's going to owe me everything. You're going to owe me $10 million for all this denial of equal protection due process of law. So I'm saying I'm going to court. It's like someone being like, yo, you want to fight? And just being like, I'm free. I'd rather be like, yeah, what's up? Like, like, love to. Hands up, kid. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not being like, oh, no, I'm not a fighter. No, you want to fight? Let's fight. You know what I mean? Let's find out who's better at fighting. It's the thing is that we've limited our education to the point of being like, oh, I'm not one of those guys. I'm not like a guy that gets into that. Neither am I, man. I'm like hokey pokey. I love it all. But I also fell in love with jiu-jitsu and fighting and just defending myself because I had to. then it's actually fun to me. I'd rather, you know what I mean? If you could choke someone out, it's better than punching their eye socket in, right? So if I've got the choice, I don't want to just be ignorant of all those choices. I'd want to know. Why are we letting ourselves like go down the street to get jumped when we could be choking the first guy out and it's done and then it's our block?
I think what we need, what would be very good right now, is, you see, there are so many tendrils. The Flat Earth has so many tendrils that reach out into different areas. I think it would be really cool if Pete and yourself got together from time to time, maybe like Nathan and I do, and discuss the differences and the similarities between the legal in the US and the legal in the UK, and the different mechanisms you can engage with in the US and in the UK, like the verbiage, the actual words.
Right now. Because my issue is this, and this is where, like, I love you, Pete, man, but the thing is that there's a freaking papal bull that annulled the Magna Carta, man. The Magna Carta
I know. But in reality, you can't take away the people's rights at all. In reality, when the people wake up, it's a big bullshit, isn't it, Issa?
Well, I mean, it's not. It's bullshit if we wake up. I've become anti-collectivist in this because, like, there's no way for me to stand with anyone because I just can't. I can't. Like, you know, I don't even like hanging out with anyone.
That's how it is for me.
I really don't. You know what I mean? I can barely stand people for 5 minutes. If I had to freaking like have roommates and shit like that, dog. Oh hell no, man. I've had one guy jumped out of the window because he left the dishes in the freaking sink. I'm that rock and roll about it. Like, you left your dishes in the sink after I told you for 2 days. Dude jumped out of a window, bro. I don't joke around with this shit, man. It's like,
well,
I don't follow you. Sorry, Pete. Just a second. I don't understand. He jumped out the window because he didn't do the dishes. That doesn't make
sense. He
any
wouldn't take the weapon I was offering him to get his ass whooped. I said, here, put this in your hand because I'm about to whoop your ass. You should have a weapon, so at least you feel safe.
Dishes.
And so he literally jumped out of the first story window to get away from me because I was walking him down and I wasn't gonna run after him either. But you didn't wash your dishes. You didn't do what you said you were gonna do. You were given a privilege. You abused it.
In the UK, we would say in the UK, we would say this was a friend who took the piss, which means they accepted everything you gave them. And rather than showing equal respect back by simply doing their freaking dishes, he took the piss and left the dishes for you to do too.
Right.
I get you completely. I totally get you. Now, I will say this. If there was a large community, like a physical build community for flat earthers, we would all be hanging with each other at the end of the night, swapping stories, talking to each other.
I've been there too.
We would make a freaking awesome.
No, that's why I chase those people out, man. I don't stand for it. Like, I don't have enough time to put up with. I'm not anyone's mother or father. I'm not trying to save the world. You know what I mean? I'm looking at it like I know that there's people that I love and I will fight for them. They know that, and I know that there's people that will fight for me. And it's like, you know, that's why I look at it like an honor to be amongst you guys. Like, you know, it's like Free Chan. I love the intellectual freaking doggedness of it because you're going to inevitably wind up with the truth. And I like truth. Cleanliness is next to godliness. It's like I chop down anything that's just doesn't, you know, if it reeks of anything, I don't want anything to do with it. It's like, that's why I mentioned it with you guys, or I've mentioned it. It's like, I don't like it when people start to get hokey pokey with it. Because if you're going to start getting a little too hokey pokey on, like, you know, and I'm talking to this, that, and I can't do it, man. Like, because it's just, for me, I'm so practical. That's why but I also feel like this. It's like when people bring up these documents like the Magna Carta, it's like, to me, it's like, you know, my magic candle. It's just not real because it's been nullified by these grander things, and I want us to get it so bad because we're getting beat up because of it. Like, if you did what Pete's doing over here, you'd be freaking, the cops are coming in, man.
Yes, let me explain something for everybody listening, because you just mentioned the truth. Now, a while back, I noticed with Wikipedia and dictionaries and various different things that they were trying to water down the concept of truth, saying that there's such things as individual truth and various different things. Now, I'm going to give an example. You might have seen a drawing, a depiction of it. This is used for cognitive behavioral therapy to understand other points of view. And this is, I'll describe it visually. You have a tube, okay? So you have a solid cylinder that has a light on one side casting a square shadow to the left, and a light on the other side casting a round shadow of the cylinder. And both the round and the square are both true, but the truth is the cylinder. So you can have you describing the square and Pete describing the circle, and by the two of you defining that you're both talking about a cylinder. Because what is truth, you can look at it, see your point of view, but if you're not prepared to move and look at it from a different point of view, you won't be able to define truth. And the thing that doesn't alter is the truth. What is true does. Right now, what is true is that I have this computer in front of me. If I turn around, the computer is no longer in front of me. So, but what is truth is that what I see is what's in front of me. I cannot see what's behind me. So this, I think if you guys got together, because you have the American, Pete has the British, and the truth is, the difference between America and Britain, there are lots of differences. In the UK, we had a video going around, not long after a guy was shot dead with a knife in the US, a mental health sufferer was shot dead with a knife. In the UK, a mental health sufferer with a samurai sword was talked down by police. They didn't taser him. They didn't rush him. They spoke to him. They controlled him as he was moving along. They made a cordon around him, giving him respect and enough time. And eventually, the one that walked up from behind didn't sneak up. He was talking to him. Somebody else was talking to him. He walked up with his hands like this so that he couldn't move his arm back. And he just gently put his hand on his shoulder, told him that it's okay, that he's going to receive help, and took the sword off him. Now, the UK and US deal with things differently. And in the UK, what Pete is doing works. In the US, you get shot. We're different cultures. It's very different. And to me, it's fascinating because they both work under the same kind of disguise of law and legalities. So I think it would be awesome if you two could, between you, help flesh out the truth.
Well, I look at it like this. I mean, like I'm familiar with like the approach of the free man philosophy, and that's why I love Pete, because I get it. Like, and I do get it. Like, but I also think like the argument could be made that, let's say, like the U.S. right now is just a practicing ground for what they will bring across the board, right? So that being said, right, like, like we're over here, we're dealing with where, like, like that one, you seen the one guy who was holding a toy truck that got shot? He was out there trying to calm down a retarded guy, or forgive me, retarded, a Down syndrome. It was a mental patient house. The guy was a worker at the mental patient. He gets shot with a toy truck in his hand. You know what I mean? Like, this is what we're dealing with over here. And so, like, it's not even like, I thought to myself, like, what a coward. Like, how would you not walk up and disarm the situation? But a lot of the cops are here, are not, really. I lived in England when I was younger. And it's like, when I came back to the States, it was like I was immediately in detention and stuff, because in England, I learned, like, it was about the wit. You had to be smart and, you had to be smart as well as,
you have a term in the States that's, that on most British people would be totally lost, which is puppycide, which I'm sure you'll know exactly what I'm talking about straight away.
What was the word again, though? Puppycide?
Yeah, where they basically, the cop will come in, see a dog in a backyard, decide that the dog is a threat, and they'll just shoot it.
Yeah, they're just shooting the dogs. Because they don't know how to deal with dogs. These are grown men afraid of the dark, given frickin' the right to frickin' run around with a weapon on. Now I have like totally.
I'm going to interrupt you actually, Issa, if you don't mind, because there's a distinction that I know Peter's got in terms of, let's call them uniformed officers, and I'm hoping that's enough lead for Pete to know where I'm going with this.
Yeah, in England, I mean, for us, Nave, you're about the same age, and Antonio, you remember the old Bobby, the old Bobby on the beat. You don't see him anymore. You don't remember the Bobby on the beat?
No, I think you're a bit older than me, I think.
Oh, I thought he was about my age. Okay.
I
Well,
remember the Bobby on the Beat.
the Bobby
It
on
was
the
a-
beat. I could name all of mine up until 11 until they disappeared.
And this is also the thing. We could name them. We knew their names. It was always the same guy that did the rounds. We knew this. Sometimes they were like the postman. You could almost set your watch by them, you know. And when that happened, you knew that they didn't have to stop anywhere because everything was all right. But go on,
So
Pete.
you got a Bobby on the beat, and
So
nowadays
I've got to interrupt you. I'm just thinking, Antonio, let him talk, but now I'm interrupting you as well. I'm really sorry. Bobby on the beat, to people who don't understand what we're talking about a local policeman who walks the beat. He walks around the local area and patrols the area. So he's a local foot-based patrolling policeman. That's a Bobby on the beat.
and we all knew him, and he knew us. He always knew our names. And then I remember being about 7 or 8, 9, 10, that age, they disappeared. And then you got the bigger, the more armoured policemen, as I like to call them. They look bigger as well. The Bobby on the beat just had the black coat and, the formal dress, if you like. But nowadays, they're bulked up, armoured, if you like. They wear, like, body armour. I know they've got all these threats that they say, so they've got to wear these stab vests, but they look so much more militarised, especially if you're on the road on the motorway and one of these guys pulls you over and he looks, for all intents and purposes, he looks like a policeman. He dresses like a policeman. He talks like a policeman, but he's not on his oath. He is not on his oath to uphold the respect and law for you, the normal person. He's just out there to collect bank rolls. The way someone told me once, the government says, "Oh, we've got an idea. We'll put a load of speeding cams down here and 2 officers. How much is it worth?" And the bank goes, "Oh, yeah, stock and bonds. This is worth this much." And then they've got the rights to that for eternity. So you're living by these rules, which is an act. Again, not consented to by you.
But just to keep you on track, Pete, so you've got a uniformed police officer
Uniformed
who has
police
authority, and you've got
Still
other
Bobby.
people who wear uniforms, right?
Yeah, he's not. He's just he's a private
Can I
speed
Can I
camera.
say something? Just real quick, the idea, Pete, and I would imagine you would agree with this. It's like these bonds, right? These deeds that are going to the government, right? The birth certificate, the corporation that we're talking about here, like that, that creates the whatever the national citizen is.
Yeah.
That's part of. You're familiar with Cesta KV trusts, right?
That's money going into your birth certificate.
Well, now, okay, well, that's the money that is actually, that's the inherent. Check this out. This is how I've come to learn about the Cesta KV Trust. Okay, like this. The warrior, right? Your grandfather.
Your ancestors' money, yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay. So
Well,
he went
for
to
the
battle.
country.
He went to battle for the king. Now he went to battle, and what he did was his wealth was given to the king, and the king, or what do you call it? Forgive me, like this warrior who was going off to battle. Let's say his son was given a deed. He held that deed until he was 18, because the warrior had to go away and fight the king's wars. So what happened was the warrior goes away, dies, and now the king's got all the spoils. And there's a kid out there who's got the receipt. Kind of reminds me of Willy Wonka sometimes. Anyway, so this kid's out there with the receipt, and now the kid's just got to go up and say, "Hey, where's my father's loot? His bounty." You know what I mean? But so that this is a system of what the Cesta KV Trust was. So now, what happened was that the king's men and all got together again, right? And they decided, well, why does the kid have to know anymore? The kid doesn't even have to know. All we have to do is give him his ticket, but then we get him busy on some other stuff. And I'll tell you what, we'll say like this. We'll make it like this. We'll make this other guy that's legal and all good, and it seems like it's really all this good stuff going on for him. And then what we'll say to him is, "Hey, kid, give me that stupid piece of paper that means nothing, and and then we'll give you one of these so you can go get a free, loaf of bread on Sunday." Well, I'd like a loaf of bread. And yeah, what am I doing with this thing? You know what I mean? So, okay, here, can I have my loaf of bread? And they're like, yep, just showed up on Tuesday or whatever. Show up on Tuesday, lines down the block, But little do you know, it's all your bread. Actually, it's everyone's in line's bread. It's all their dad's bread that was left for them, all their money and gold and everything. But they're over there looking for a leader, and they're all saying, "Are you, do you deserve bread? Or do you even deserve? Today I get bread." And they're like, "Me too, I get bread." And then the other guy, "I get bread. Do you get bread?" "No, haha, he doesn't get bread because he's not he's not a citizen." And this is what they've done to us: is they've kept the wealth. And you're over there with your ticket, which is frickin' gold because it's a deed, and you don't know what it is. And so the king's men and all the bankers and everyone got together again, and they're frickin' just like expounding. It was like they just keep having more kids. So we're just gonna keep on doing this, so we can keep the interest rates down. We'll just keep the currency flowing out because we always got the kids that are being born again. Or, and always we're just handing out their things. And then they're saying, you don't want to go without bread, right? And they're like, nope, don't want to go without bread. Okay, well, Mom, you got to give me the thing that says you can have bread on Tuesdays. And they just got the rigmarole going. And everyone's running around like they got like their certificate. Like they gave up their certificate when they should have the certificate is what we can say, hey, where's, you know what I mean? Like, did you not deny me equal protection due process of law and trying to offer me a fake, some fake bullshit bread? So we've got to understand that what they're operating is our wealth.
This is what I was referring to as a neuro-linguistic trick. It's a neuro-linguistic trick. It functions the same way. They spin something and give you an illusion. So they give you the illusion that your end of the stick is the best end of the stick. It's like, no.
I want to bring Pete on this, Antonio, which is the illusion of authority, which is kind of where I was trying to lead Pete with the uniform and stuff. I mean, I just don't want to tell his story for him. You know what I mean?
Okay, so as I was saying, the armoured police guy is not a police guy, is just a banker's private speed cameraman. And he looks like a policeman, he sounds like a policeman, and as soon as you say your name, it's a contract. You've been fined. If you don't pay the fine, 3 points on your licence, and a chance that your car's going to get crushed, even though it's your car, allegedly. I think that's why he calls himself Allegedly Dave, isn't it? That just dawned on me. So it's the same with anything. They don't have any rights to do that to you. Neither does a normal policeman. You ask him if he's on his oath and he says yes, then you better empower yourself there and then and ask if you're free to go. If he says you're not free to go, then you're going to ask him what's the charge. And if he starts reciting an act, then you didn't consent to it, he's not getting your name. But this also applies to people knocking at your door. 2 people can knock at your door, postman and someone that's lost, and that's it. It's up to you if you answer the door. You might not get your mail if you don't answer the postman, but when it comes to a stranger, it's up to you if you answer the door. And that's what these people are, strangers knocking at your door. You don't have to answer the door. You've seen how I deal with them, but most bailiffs come pretending. I've got one here. It's not even got my right name on it anyway. It's not even got my slave name on it. This is how clever they are. I think I showed on one of the other ones there. You can see there, 17th, that's this Wednesday. But there's no red signature on it. Without a red signature on these things, they're not valid. It's just like the old days, he'd sign it in red ink like he'd signed it in blood, meaning that judge, that sheriff, the guy who signed that bit of paper will place himself in jail if there's anything unlawful going on. What that does without that signature is remove him from any prosecution. Which I think even if he did get caught, he'd claim not to be the name, like I would now to them. So he could just pull himself back. It's deferral of whatever you call it.
Pete, if I can ask you at the end of the show, give me your address and I'll come and hang out with you on Wednesday.
On Wednesday? Yeah, sure.
Yep.
I was actually going to, maybe we're just coming up on 2 hours actually, so I was hoping to get maybe some sort of final points off Issa and then Pete, and then we'll close up if that's all good by you guys.
Sure.
So yeah, Issa, is there any sort of final remarks?
Dude, I could go on for days, brother. You know, just like, I mean, really, like, I want, like, I think something, instead of trying to take anything up with, like, I just want to get to one point with just something for an exercise, right? In contracting, there are 4 doors, okay? As far as I've learned it from the people that I've studied under it, it's that the four doors are acceptance, conditional acceptance. Those are an honor. Those are what you always want to do, okay? It's from my style of it, okay? Because it's less confrontational. So, like, then you have argument and silence. These are dishonorable. Argument and silence are inherently dishonorable. And then you have to remember, you can say no, you might wind up in some trouble. You can still search your pockets. So, if I say, what's your name? If you don't mind, if you give me a liberty just to talk about this, Nathan, it just might take a second, and I wanted to get it across. It's like, if I say to you, hey, what's your name? And if you don't tell me, I'm going to smack you in the mouth in 5 seconds. You have 4 doors to go through. And that's acceptance, conditional acceptance, argument, and silence. Now, if you say yes and you say your name, that means you kind of got cowered into and threatened, and you were not given consideration, which is equal value. For a contract to be in existence, there must be an exchange of equal value, or whatever the agreement is. So, second one is conditional acceptance, which I will come back to, and these two are honor. Third one is argument. If I say, I don't know you, is that going to stop the guy from counting down? No, he's still going to go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and smack you in the mouth. And if you go silent, he's going to go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and smack you in the mouth. So instead of doing any of those, I'd want to do conditional acceptance, which would be, I'd be happy to, like the Bible says, Matthew 5:25. I'd be happy to, so long as you tell me your name first, give me $5, and if you don't in 2 seconds, I'm going to punch you in the mouth. Now I've changed the dynamics of the agreement. Now I'm counting. And now in this game of law, you are set up with the UCC 3603, House Joint Resolution 192. You've got Title 42, Section 408A8, like people in the States. Like, let's say just to deal with people, you got to get used to contracting. And those 4 doors. And I'd be happy to, so long as. And in that way, you can do it with anything. And then it becomes so, you practice. And something you can practice with is a little confrontational at times, is trying not to use your social number to get business done. Because anyone who's going to deprive you the rights of because you don't provide a Social Security account number, or if you're under Title 18, Section 242, and non-resident alien, you know, someone that was born on the land as a non-resident alien, that's what they're titled in the tax code anyway, right? So, like, those people deserve full rights and protections. It's when you've defined yourself as collateral, as we've mentioned earlier, and how in the United States they have less rights. U.S. citizens have less rights than state citizens. But how could I be a word? Because am I not a child of God? Especially when I'm in the room that says under God, in God we trust. It's just I'm not going to call my fellow flat earther out when he's in power. I might say, Your Honor, as a priority security interest holder here to settle the matter, would you like to adjourn until later on in the day when we may have this meeting in chambers? That's more agreeable. And it takes away from me being like, Nathan, I have to get a drink of water. Would you like to join me by the thing to discuss a couple things? That's better than me being like,
no.
Nathan, no, exactly. And then, it's nicer. It's better than this, though, but it's better than this. Nathan, remember when you did the show, man? Oh, my God, come here, let's talk about flat earth. Is that your boss? Hey! You know what I mean? Like, you know, that's not what we'd want to do. I'd be like, hey, Nathan, can I have a word? You know, it would be discreet. In the same way with the judges. He's on your team, but don't blow him up in the water with a room full of U.S. citizens that are enemies of the state. He's got to keep it militant on them. It has to be that way. They're enemies of the state. It's like, you know, now we can go get into morality, and that's why I have a guitar to sing. The fucking point is that when you're dealing with this shit, that emotional level and your morality has to be put in check so that you can save your morality, defend your morality, without having a confrontation. I mean, shit, when people have kids, it's not just you anymore. It's you and the kids now. It's like, it's like if someone says, hey, I'm gonna take your kids. Upon proof of claim, they're not my kids. Upon proof of claim that I'm not the first priority security interest holder having an interest in all property and collateral attached here too. And show cause why you wouldn't be denied an equal protection due process of law without a charging instrument so I can discharge. But upon proof of claim, what's your bar number? What's your insurance number? What's your license number, your employer number? Do you not take full responsibility? 54321, it appears you've accepted full liability, therefore, miss whatever your name is, you're the one that's got to pay me $10 million, right? Now we're talking about, why $10 million? And they do that. They literally are that childish. It's like it's like when somebody trolls the chat room on Flat Earth, and even if it's one of the Flat Earthers, like, Earth's not flat, fuck you, and then all of us take it seriously and jump on them. It's like that. They're just throwing flame in the fire. Those freaking lawyers are just going to come in, and you could have the best paperwork in the world. He's going to come in there and be like, hey, Your Honor, this lunatic paperwork over here, da-da-da-da-da, from this idiot over here. Look how ugly he is. You know? And they're going to be, if you argue and take that bait, much like in these chat rooms, you argue and take that bait, you lose your argument. You can't get like, I'd be happy to, so long as you can show me that you didn't accept a $10 million penalty on behalf of Miss Whatever who showed up at my doorstep. Or is that you that accepted the $10 million penalty, Judge? Or is it you, the DA? And the moving party is who you're going against in court. The judge is the best friend. It's like playing basketball. Somebody steals the ball from you in basketball. You don't go up to the referee and say, that stealing is bad. He's going to be like, dude, playing basketball. You stole the ball fair and square, dude. Get with it. It's actually a highlight reel in some fucking circles. So why don't you just frickin', and that's why for me, I love when a judge just tosses a free man, not because I want to see homeboy go to jail, but because I learn about what he actually did that was right. Because judges are never wrong. And you can think whatever you want about that, they're never wrong and shit like that, but they're just doing contracts. You came in there as a U.S. citizen, you got nothing coming. You're an enemy of the state. Talking about Magna Carta, the Magna Carta was nullified. King John went back into the fold under the Roman Church, and that Magna Carta was nullified under duress.
But my soul is not nullified.
All right, okay, well, I'll tell you what then. In the States, anyone talking Magna Carta and stuff, nullified.
I know, I understand that, Asa, but in England...
Hey, man, brother, I understand, and I respect that, and we'll have to get down to it. Problem is, people get shot over here, dude. I don't have time for the argument on the side of the road, so my fucking cousin who just got into Freeman stuff is now going to get shot on the side of the road because he says that he's one of the king's men. I can't deal with that. I got no time for you can't come in here because I know the reality of the matter is that he who does deny admits, and I'm a grown-up. So
this is why I was saying, Isa and Pete, this is why I was saying we have, because of the internet, we have two very different cultures that have a similar system going on and different ways of dealing with it. In the US, you're shot dead. Here, they talk to you. So they don't always talk to you. I'm not saying, yeah, but what I'm saying is
they will talk to you here. Forgive me though. Go on. I just want to say, like, I don't want people to have the fear anymore. They will talk.
Yes. So this is what Pete is getting at, is that when you understand that you can engage with all the legalities and all the terminology, or you can understand what you are, or you can do both. You can understand what you are and engage with all the, and be, a slave, or you can know what you are and stop being a slave. It's entirely up to you. This is the thing. It's what you decide. But first, you have to know. You have to at least know that you have the possibility of saying, I don't consent and I'm not going to obey. And look at how you can do this without getting a truncheon on your neck. Nathan, I left the message in the comments here. But what I think is really cool is if you two compare, because by comparing, American citizens will hear things, and British citizens will hear things.
Isa said, he has to attend, Antonio. He has to attend. In England, a summons is an invitation. Just ring the courthouse up. On the date it says, and say, hello, I'm at court today, and the courthouse will say no. But you've got a letter saying attend.
Do you guys mind if I take us out with, I got a song. This song is for Pete, man. Just to let you know that I love you and I understand exactly.
If it's a bomb on ice, I'm going to get you back.
Pete,
I mean
before
it.
you do, well, I've got to take control. So before you do, Issa, if Pete could just get his, final thoughts in, I'm going to say my thank yous now, and then if you can play us out, that'd be wicked. So first and foremost, thank you, Issa Mahal, for being on Mechanics of the Fourth Wall. Pete, I'll thank you once you've given us your last couple of thoughts, if you would. Antonio, as ever, thank you for being with us. But yeah, Pete, if you can just give us your last thoughts before we close out the show.
For me, it's always going to be from this point on non-serve I am. I don't serve anyone. I'm not your slave. I don't want to take 10 million quid off of ISA. I don't want to join in their games. They can keep the worthless pieces of money, and I'll answer to him only. That's the only one that's going to judge me. Full stop. Nullified by him.
Superb. Pete, you're a star. Thank you very much, Pete, for being on Mechanics of the Fourth Wall, and to all of you in chat who have joined us very kindly, chatting away and being very, very civil to each other. Thank you also. We will be played out by Issa, so I'll stick the camera on you. If Pete and Antonio could mute your mics, I'd be very grateful.
You told me the sun would never set. Moon was in my eyes and never to forget. Always guard yourself from those with no respect. Wise as serpents, watch out for innocence, she said. Ooh, taught you not to fight. Ooh, said it would be easy. Ooh, taught you not to fight. Ooh, said it would be easy. There is no innocence in my isolation. There are no enemies, only confrontations. There are no victories, only lamentations. I will defend myself without hesitation, cause I'd rather try and walk alone and live your lives by going down. I'd rather fight, even if I die, fighting for what I like. Ooh, taught you not to fight. Ooh, said it would be easy. Ooh, taught you not to fight. Ooh, said it would be easy. There are no problems when I see only solutions. There are no enemies above all your illusions. I will not sell my garden for all your pollutions. I will defend myself through all your confusion, cause I'd rather try and walk alone. Live your lives by going down. I'd rather fight, even if I die, fighting for what I like. Ooh. Taught you not to fight. Said it would be easy. Taught you not to fight. Said it would be easy. Thanks, guys.